Somebody's in the middle of the lake drowning and they're surrounded by other people in little boats. If that was a metaphor for a job search, right? I'll say, who's the person drowning? And of course, most job seekers say, well, it's me. I'm drowning. And I'm like, nah, you're
No.
not drowning. You're the ones in the boat. It's the employer that's drowning. And the reason we know they're drowning is they put out a job description, say, help, we're drowning.
You are listening to 5 a.m. podcast. Your morning motivation starts here.
Welcome to the 5 a.m. podcast. I'm your host, Michael Clausen. Today, we discuss what it actually takes to win at work, not just in the floor hockey pool, and not just by working harder, but by leading smarter and navigating your career with intention. Our guest today has spent over 25 years serving at the highest levels of leadership with a career spanning the White House, Capitol Hill, the U.S. State Department, and yes, the Smithsonian. He is a certified ICF master coach who has traveled to over 70 countries, helping individuals and organizations elevate their performance and thrive in complex environments. He is the founder of Win at Work, the author of The Ultimate Guide to Internships, and a leading expert on how to get hired fast and grow as a leader. Please welcome Eric Woodard to the 5 a.m.
Well, hey,
podcast.
Michael. I'm so
Great
glad to be here, buddy. So glad to be here. And I really want to acknowledge you for just the work you do to put this together and all the people that get to
Thanks.
listen to you and learn from you. It's inspiring.
It's a labor of love. There's been times where you're in the cubicle from what you think should be 9 to 5, but it's more like 7 to 6 or something. And, you're just working it out, cutting your teeth and, putting in what you think is going to get you noticed and moved ahead. But that does not always happen. Sometimes your name might not be on the accelerator list. Now, before we get into this, because we're going to have a great discussion about work and business and leading and winning, I actually just saw something probably on TikTok or one of the usual suspects that you should actually lie on your resume and your business application information. What say you, good sir?
Well, it's so interesting. Now, let me ask you, because this is a thing that's out there, right? When you say lie, do you mean like lie? Like sometimes in job stuff, they talk about like resume Botox. Is this like lie about your age? Would that be an example of what you're talking about?
Well, my understanding of the post and the information contained therein was like severely gilding the lily of abilities or experience.
Okay.
Which I thought people would not like, but it would also show if they actually read your resume.
Well, that's it. That could be like the red M&Ms thing in the contract, right? Which, that famous story. I mean, I generally, and we can talk more about this, there's a lot out there and some of the people in sort of, the career industry, they would disagree, but I'm not a big fan of selling ourselves. I'm just not.
Yes.
Like I sort of lean towards the idea that the reason anybody's going to hire us or buy from us or date us or do a lot of things with us is because it's not our skills. It's not our experience. It's not even if they like it. It's if they trust us. And the reason why I wouldn't be a big fan of gilding the lily or lying or pumping ourselves up is it's a lie, and nothing destroys trust more than that. So I would respectfully disagree with the author of that TikTok post. At least with my clients, it doesn't work so great. Like the truth will set you free.
The truth does set you free. And, I've had camera ops or other people who want to be on a mobile television production crew. And that you find out that they did not tell you the truth. Do you think I call them back for the next show? I do not. And you're looking for someone with a quality of character, because we would often have musical acts. We're setting up and getting ready for shows, and you go by the room we're not allowed in because, we didn't have the rider, and you see the various colors of M&Ms in different dishes, as you mentioned.
Right. That's right.
And it's for real, folks. And then, oh boy, I should see one of my crew members in the room having some food off the table. And I'd be like, oh man, that guy's not coming back. I'm sorry.
Right.
So
because one cannot have the Navy SEALs are famous for this, right? Like if they'll do a chart where they'll say, they'll plot people
yes.
like, is somebody a good SEAL or are they trustworthy? And you can be a
Yes.
super good SEAL, and if you're not trustworthy, you'll get kicked out. If you're a
That's
pretty
right.
good SEAL, but your trust is high, they keep you. So it's like that.
Yes. Yes, and I would give that chart to my people and say, you can be low skill and high trust, and I will say
That's
good
right.
morning to you every day that you show
Yep.
up. When you can be phenomenal on camera or editing, but low trust, and you don't meet our deadlines, and you make everybody else look bad, forget about it. You're not on the call sheet anymore. And
100%.
we have to do that, but also let's think. We do have a good demographic of people who listen in their 20s, plus or minus. Can you give them some advice on this internship
Yeah.
of starting out, and you're not only building your career and your CV, but you're actually building who you are as a person.
Yeah. I mean, and I could write a book on internships. I've written several, right? But it's like,
Yes.
it's like the thing about internships that I think is really fundamental. And people will treat it like a job. An internship's not a job. And 10, 15 years ago, there was people were getting wrapped up on, internships have to be paid, not paid. And it's fine. If an internship's paid, it's fine.
Yes.
And it kind of is beside the point
Yeah, it sure is.
because internships are about learning. And the minute it becomes about, well, I'm going to get a salary, well, now it's just a job. And jobs may or may not, good jobs are about learning, but not necessarily. An internship is an internship because it's focused on learning. It's not about performance. It's not about, it's about learning. And so if and one approaches it like that, and again, there's a question of accessibility, right? Sometimes
That's
people
right.
get stipends to, they borrow or they sleep on a couch, whatever you have to do. And again, none of that's fair. And I hear that. And, the opportunity is if you're the person who can go in there and get the reps and learn. And this is especially more nowadays because stuff tends to be decentralized. It tends to be virtual. So if you can get those reps, especially if I were in my 20s today, that real world experience has never been more valuable than it is today.
Absolutely. And I know we've got that age spectrum of those people that are in university or out of university looking for that internship or that job. But we also have parents who would be looking for some of their children to find a good university. And I know I've always advised people on, you don't go to university for the scholastic achievement. You actually go for the networking. And that's a huge component of internships as well. Can you talk a
Sure.
little bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I got my first big job through an internship. And because it's hard to build trust by sending in a job application. To your point, that's often elevated because someone uses their network. Now, a way to even build more trust is to be an intern that's helped somebody out for 6 months, right? That you've shown results in advance. You've demonstrated that you're somebody that they can count on. And even more than that, you're somebody they have an investment in. So your
Yes.
success becomes their success. And so you put all those things together. Michael, the one thing, and I advise this to job seekers, but good Lord, in the hands of a young professional, early professional, this becomes extra dangerous in the best way, is so many job seekers. And you could say the same thing about people who are gunning for internships or even people who are trying to get into college, is in school, it's very much about us, right? It's me, 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 it's my cubby, it's my worksheet, it's my desk, it's my trophy, it's my transcript, it's my diploma. And yet when we move to the working world, seasoned professionals know it's not about us at all. It's the constituent, the customer, the client, the shareholder. And yet nobody sort of gives us that memo when we move from school to the working world. So very often when I see, early professionals, they're focused, they're like, let me tell you about all my wonderfulness, because that's what college is sort of, and I'm a fan of higher ed, but so
Yes.
if and when an early professional or even any professional can make that switch and talk about them, focus on them, right? Everything changes. And let everybody else just have a cover letter that's full of the I's and me's, right?
Yes.
I ask people, what's a good resume? And of course they say, oh, it's about me. And I'm like, no, it's not. A good resume is not about you. A good resume is about the person or organization you're sending it to. Game changing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the world's favorite radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me?
That's right. That's right.
Yes. So Eric, I was just going to say, I guess I better get to the script and actually ask you some questions I studied and wrote down here, but
Sure.
we're having too great of a conversation. So I've got to ask at least a couple of the questions
Please,
that I wrote
by all
down. So
means.
you've spent a quarter century working in some of the most intense environments on Earth.
Mhm.
We went through the list, the White House, the State Department, Capitol Hill. What's the one leadership trait that remains consistent regardless of how high the stakes are?
I mean, I could offer you a couple, but I mean, the one that probably stands out to me, and you know, I've sort of grown to appreciate this even more the older I get. But you know, everybody puts their shorts on one leg at a time, Michael.
Yes.
Everybody does, right? Everybody does. And what I find is often the people who are the most important, truly, are the ones that are going to be least likely to walk up and say, "Do you know who I am?" Right? Like those are
Yes.
if somebody walks up to you and like, "Well, do you know who I am?" Those are the people you can probably pretty safely ignore. It's the
Yes.
ones that sort of come up and they're like, "I'm really sorry to bother you." Like, I don't know who that is, but they're probably the best friend of like
Yeah,
the
that's right.
president or something, right?
They're humble.
So yeah, yeah. And I could say that. I mean, we could talk about the power of I don't know, right? Like if somebody asks you something and you don't know, the only correct answer is I don't know. And maybe it's I'll go find out if you want me to, but that's optional. And the great thing about that is I don't know is where possibility lives. See, as soon as we know stuff, we can hear the doors and windows closing. There's not a lot of places to go. So if we can lean into the awareness that I don't know is not just an okay place to be, it's an awesome place to be. Those are a couple of many leadership things
That's
I've
right.
learned. Yeah.
Well, and I have learned the I don't know statement from trial and error.
Sure.
You know, we have to cut our teeth somehow, and we do find out what works and what doesn't. You've traveled to over 70 countries. How has seeing leadership, let's say through different palaces or different political places and cultural lenses, how has that changed the way that you coach professionals here at home?
Such a great question. I have, and sometimes I feel most at home in airports.
Mhm.
You know, I'm most at home in transit, and you know, I'm lucky enough to be married to my beautiful, smart trophy wife, and we have 4 kids, and so they sort of get this through osmosis. But like, the world is a great big place, and it is the smallest place you can imagine. And you know, yeah, there's different cultures and all the rest. And at the end of the day, and this is going to sound like the most cliche thing in the world, people are really similar going around the world. They really are. They just, I mean, you know, most people, you know, they're, my experience is they don't wake up in the morning and be like, I want to be an asshole today. Like that doesn't happen. They,
That's right.
they, they care about their families. They care about the people they want to be safe. In some ways, us humans, we're not that, we want to, reach our full potential. Right? We want to, you know, like self-actualize. But
Right.
if we could do all that, I mean, sure, there's cultural differences and language differences and religion differences and, you know, different forms of government. So I feel like I need to start breaking out and we are the world here. But that's
Yeah.
my experience. Yeah.
No, at the
Sure.
Smithsonian and the State
Yeah.
Department, how did you build a culture of winning in
Yeah.
large organizations that are often bogged down by the ink, paper, and bureaucracy?
Absolutely. And you know, different places it is different. So I mean, I love the State Department and it is super bureaucratic. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, they have, you know, the sort of the organ and the Smithsonian, I love that place. And what was interesting there is you would see sort of the differences between the art historians and the folklife people and the, you know, the entomologists and, you know, and then the people who did communications and fundraising. So you'd sort of see all these different things. So, you know, I mean, I could give you a lot of examples. You know, at the State Department, what was always fun to do is, you know, well, I guess this would probably be true for the Smithsonian too, but, you know, people would often play the game of, well, this is how it's always been done. Right? This is how it's always been done. And you can sort of respond to that like, oh, that's fantastic. And we'll be doing it a different way today. Right? Let's try something different. And I guess the other thing I would say, and sometimes this is easier said than done, is, you know, what people think of me is none of my business. their upset is none of my business. I remember one time specifically, I was at the Smithsonian, and there was a leader who was proposing something. It was somebody senior to me, and they didn't last very long at the Smithsonian, by the way. But like, it was somebody senior to me, and they were like, they wanted me to do something with the internship program. And, I was going to have to do what they said, but I said, look, I would be doing you a disservice if I just went ahead and did this without telling you all the reasons. This is a really bad idea. And at the risk of upsetting you, I'm going to be willing to offend in the name of service. They wrote back very upset and some terse answer that would be terrifying to most people. And I remember responding to them and being like, well, I'm just curious. Is our purpose here to keep you from being upset, or is it to increase and diffuse knowledge? You let me know. And if you could, please put it in writing. And I wasn't, and of course, the person just broke down and apologized, and they were so sorry because they saw. So we don't have to be in the business of pleasing people if we are all about service. Yeah, that's what I would say.
That's good. And it's tough for those people pleasers to understand why they're the people pleaser and how they can actually use that to their strength. And we all have to have our minds renewed through life. And now I want to ask you about you founding Win at Work for somebody who feels, Win at Work, for somebody who feels like they're currently maybe losing their grip on that rope, or just treading water in their career. What is that very first shift in mindset they need to make?
Well, it's funny you mention water, because one of the metaphors I like to use is, let's say there's a lake, right? And in the middle of the lake, somebody's drowning. Now they're surrounded by other people in little boats. Okay. So somebody's in the middle of the lake drowning, and they're surrounded by other people in little boats. If that was a metaphor for a job search, right? I'll ask a lot of job seekers. I'll say, who's the person drowning? And of course, most job seekers say, well, it's me. I'm drowning. And I'm like, nah, you're not drowning. You're the ones in the boat, right? It's the employer that's drowning. And the reason we know they're drowning is they put out a job description, say, help, we're drowning in work. Now, some job seekers will roll up and they'll say, pick me, I'm the best, pick me. And the person in the water is like, well, I want to get out of the water, but not that guy, right? Because needy is creepy. And so realize that you're not drowning. And again, I get everybody's got different economics and everybody's got a different situation. And if you're listening to this podcast, my friends, you are not drowning. You're safe. You're safe. And you're not drowning. Your life hasn't blown up. You just want a job. That's all. Well, that's easy to get handled, right? Even if you've been, sometimes people come to me after being on the job search for 2 or 3 years. There's nothing wrong with them. They just don't have a system that works. So we just got to get them a better system, and then everything will be fine.
It can be really tense sometimes when we think that we're the one drowning. And then we find out.
Terrifying, right?
Yeah.
Totally. One time I actually had a guy who came to me and he said, oh, Eric, my life's blown up. I'm like, well, that sounds terrible. Can I ask you about that? He's like, oh, yeah. I said, well, what'd you use? And he's like, huh? I was like, did you TNT, C4, plastique? Like, what was it? Dynamite? He's like, no. I didn't blow my life up. I was like, well, what happened? He's like, I just made a bad decision. I was like, oh, well, we can figure that out. That sounds a lot less scary than body parts flying through the air.
Yes.
So like that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well, you talk a lot about workplace success. How do you define that beyond the salary and the title?
Well, Stephen Pressfield, he's written a bunch of great books. He writes about being a professional. He's got a book called Turning Pro. And we think about professionals, and sometimes what I find so interesting, Michael, is sometimes people get the word formal and professional mixed up, especially early professionals, right? They'll put the middle initial on the name on their resume, and they'll use flowery language, right? And they, because they think formal is professional. Nah, in my experience, and I think I can speak with some authority. I'm kind of an old man here, right? It's like, professional means that you show up. Right? The reason the grocery store opens on time is because there's a system of professionals behind it. Sally's got the key. She's there at 6 a.m. And if she's not there, it's Bob. And if Bob's sick, then it's somebody else. So the grocery store opens on time every time. It's a profession. And, the other thing I like to say is, if we went to get heart surgery and we walked in and the heart surgeon was like, oh my gosh, we're going to cut you open. There's going to be blood and colors and it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. We get the hell out of there. Right. Whereas if we walked in And the heart surgeon, she was like, you know what, we're going to cut you open. Things go great. Things go sideways, we'll deal with it. Gain phase, right? Gain phase. And so it's like professionals have gain phase. Professionals, there's this advice about follow your passion. I've never been a big fan because if you think about it, most professionals, they're not particularly passionate in the moment. They have their game face on. Now they may have a passion that gives them, stamina to go the distance. But in the moment, professionals are actually a little bit dispassionate. They're just taking care of business.
That's right.
So that's what I would say so when it comes to winning at work, that's what I would say, right? Is professionals have systems, they have game face. They do what they say they will do when they say they will do it. They show up.
Yeah. Dependable, and they show up.
Yeah.
They get the job done, and people can count on them.
Exactly.
Yes. And that is so valuable, both for the team that they're with and as well as for the stakeholders in the business. Now, I wanted to ask you, you're a ICF Master Certified Coach.
It's very impressive, Michael. I hope you understand how impressive that is.
I was just going to ask you to explain that I don't know, $75 title, but there's some good words in there.
I have a doctorate of education. I'm a master scuba instructor. I mean, I could go on and on. And at the end of the day, right? Nobody has ever hired me because of that.
Right.
Right. The only reason they've hired me is because they trust me. And now look, I'm a big fan of learning. So I like to just sort of, I picked up a lot of credentials and degrees, and it's all I'm saying this facetiously. It's very impressive, right?
Yes.
Does it give me more credibility? I don't know. Maybe. I probably not, but what it has done, I mean, what I find, again, it's cliche that the more I learn, the less I know. And that's the empowering part.
Truth.
Because, And the other thing that I find, actually the reason I went and got my doctorate is, and this was at the Smithsonian, there were a lot of great people at the Smithsonian, and there were some people in sort of academia that sort of threw around the letters after their name. So I was like, okay, I'll go get some letters after my name.
Yeah, right.
And they were like, I'm a doctor. Oh, I've got that.
Thanks for watching the show. Just a reminder that you can get all of our resources, other episodes, and read our blog posts at 5ampodcast.com. 5am Podcast is brought to you in part by mkci.ca, a certified member of the Autodesk Developer Network. MKCI helps companies maximize their AutoCAD, Inventor, Navisworks, and other design software investments. Their innovative products like the CommandSys script editor and the Clash Management Suite will streamline your workflow and boost your productivity. Visit mkci.ca today to discover how they can enhance your competitive CAD advantage. That's mkci.ca. Thank you for your support of 5am Podcast. Let's talk about diving for a little bit, because those aquatic things like sailing and diving, now that we know that you're a master diver trainer, is like, those are great metaphors for life. And I remember the first time had my vest on, regulator was appropriately placed in my mouth. I was figuring out how I was going to breathe.
That's right.
Yeah. And I'm on my friend's dock, and I've got another friend of mine, former military guy, great diver. And we were about to dive into the Pacific Northwest. Freezing cold water.
So you had wetsuits. Did you have wetsuits on or dry suits?
We had wetsuits on.
Wetsuits. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you dive in, and the experience, no matter what somebody tells you, is a shock to the system. The cold water hitting your face and learning how to breathe. And you do that a few times, and then I could take my regulator out. No problem. I could, Can you talk a little bit about that metaphor for business of somebody coming into a new place and they think they've got it cased? They are ready to jump off that dock into some freezing cold water.
Well, there's so many metaphors. And actually one time I sort of thought about doing a dive coaching program, right? To use scuba as a metaphor because there's a lot of things but I mean, we could just talk about pressure, right? Yes. Pressure and just for, I think most people get this, but as we go underwater, for every 33 feet of water we're under, it's about an atmosphere worth of pressure. And so, if you go diving 66 feet, 99 feet, now you don't just have a single atmosphere of weight on you, you have 4 times. Now, look, if you did that without equalizing the air spaces in your body, it would get real painful real fast, and you would probably die in short order, right? Or if you took a breath at depth and decided to come up and hold your breath, your lungs would explode, right?
Forget about
Not
it.
not
Yes.
good. None of that, right? And so what it tells me is that when it comes to business, and I have my own business, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm on the roller coaster, just like every other entrepreneur.
Yes.
Is sometimes the opportunity is to remember to equalize and remember that you're safe, right? So like in diving, like if something goes sideways, and this is just ingrained in me, it's stop, breathe, think, act. That's what you do. Stop, breathe, think, act in that order. And you can do that in business too, right? Like, cause I know there's times in my business where I'm like, wow, like I just last month, in fact, my business did not have a great month. I've already done better this month than I did last month. So everything's getting better, but it happens. And, there's moments where we can be below the water, like metaphorically, and we can feel that pressure. And it's just, if we can equalize and we can stop and breathe and think and act and just realize we're safe. It's sort of like the drowning person metaphor. Nah, you're not drowning, right? Yeah, your business is going sideways. Yeah, you're safe. And what we tend to do, and this is what happens underwater, is we'll tend to have a negative default future. We'll see a shadow and we'll think that's a great white shark.
That's right.
Not just there, it's coming to eat my face. And of course,
Yeah. That's
very
right.
unlikely that's true.
It's going to start with my regulator, my face mask, and he's not going to, I'm going to die by drowning.
That's right.
Not by a shark.
That's right.
Well, even in Pacific Northwest, you got those very well camouflaged codfish with the prickly spines.
Yeah, those sound fun.
Yeah, so they have venom in their spines.
Oh, that's like a stonefish or like a scorpion fish.
Stonefish.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much fun. And then, of course, you
times.
got your dive light, too. It gets dark as you go down. But, boy, you turn that dive light on. I don't know how they get so much light out of those little things, but
halogen bulb, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Okay, so getting back to the Master Certified Coach,
Sure.
what's the most common blind spot that you see in that mid to senior level leader when it comes to their own career development?
Absolutely. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, is what sometimes I'll tell people, and it almost seems like the better educated and the smarter they are, the more this is true. Is people will come to me and they'll tell me they know all the reasons their things are happening to them. They know why they don't have a job. They know why their spouse is angry at them. They know why they don't have money. I mean, just fill in the blank. They know.
Yes.
And I'll sort of stop and I'll be like, well, we got to get you to Hollywood. And they'll sort of look at me and I'll be like, because you need to be a screenwriter. Anybody that's so creative to come up with all of that. I mean, look how creative you are. Look at the time and energy and the care that you've invested to come up with that story. And you've got details.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
One quote I like to say is, somewhere in the world, there's somebody that's further ahead than you because they're not smart enough to come up with all the creative stories that you have. Right? And so that's the big blind spot I run into, is people knowing a lot. Now, look, we want to make airplanes fly or cure COVID. We want people in white lab coats. And for the vast majority of things, knowing is not our friend. Judgment is not our friend. Curiosity is our friend. So that's the biggest blind spot I see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and our Stoic philosopher friends will tell us that we suffer more from imagination than reality.
That's right. Yay, Marcus Aurelius. That's right.
I know.
That's
so
right.
good. And I got to, coming from a Christian perspective, there is a phrase, it talks about not taking God's name in vain and not taking, not having any vain imaginations. And I wanted to know what that, I like to imagine things, positive things. We all have our ideas and things. So I looked up the word vain. It actually means non-working. So it's actually telling you, get rid of the non-working imagination, get rid of the things that are holding you down.
So it's so insightful.
And
because people, Michael, to your point, I find people will tell themselves stories. We all do, right? None of us, I mean, I don't know about, I've yet to meet somebody who has an objective reality filter, right?
Totally.
I mean,
Yes.
so we're all making stuff up. And so the question isn't so much is the stories we tell, are they true or false? Because I don't know. The question is really, are the stories we're telling ourselves, are they workable? Are they useful? And if they're not, double click on some different stories, man. Like swap it out. Yeah.
Change your algorithm.
That's right.
Feed.
Change your algorithm.
Yes. We have to think on those positive, good thoughts that are actually going to help ourselves and each other.
What's useful?
Now, I want to ask you then about your workshop. Get hired fast, because there's probably some people that would say, shut up and take my money right now. But in a market that feels crowded, it's got some noise and some static. What is the secret to standing out to a hiring manager in the first 30 seconds?
It's not saying the word I, me, or my, right? And that can be difficult. So you read a hiring manager and most people are like, well, hey, my name's so-and-so and here's me and me. When the opportunity instead is to say something like, here's what really stands out about you. You are clearly up to this. It sure seems like you guys have been struggling with this and you've overcome it. And there's such an opportunity for you on this. The work you do matters so much to so many people. You. Because most people aren't doing that. They're talking about themselves. So that's my best advice for standing out.
Well, that's good. As I was putting that question together and reading it, I was thinking, boy, this is just like, what do we do for a YouTube video? How do we hold on to those people and hook them in for that 60 seconds or whatever we need for the algorithms?
That's right.
And that's 100%. That same kind of thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you're hearing us, we've got a comment section. We'd love to hear from you. I'm talking with Eric Woodard. We're talking all kinds of stuff. Diving, fishing maybe, and work and getting hired or getting fired. To your point about how you present yourself as someone seeking employment, it makes me think of how people love to hear the sound of their name. And anyway, that was what's triggered to me of, people like to hear their own name. They like to talk about themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, take Eric's advice. If you're looking for work, do some research on the company and the people, and then ask them questions about them. And they're going to be like, wow, Sally or Jim.
Well, and that's true. And just to even take it a level further, it's great to ask them questions. That's fine. What's even more powerful is to make observations, right? So a perfect example is I was coaching some people, I'll protect people's privacy, but I was coaching some police officers that worked in a large metropolitan city that had a train station. And the police officers told me they had trouble because they would go and they were homeless people, houseless people in the train station that were always there. And the police officers were really just wanting to make sure they were okay. And whenever they walked up to those people and said, how are you? A lot of the homeless people would get mad because they'd feel threatened. Oh, this cop's going to make me move. Like, what's he going to do? I haven't been doing anything wrong. Leave me alone, cop, all the things. And so I said, well, guys, why don't you, instead of going and asking them questions, which might feel invasive, why don't you just make an observation? So they did it again. They went in and instead of how are you, they said, wow, the station's busy today. And the people were like, yeah, it is busy today. And that became a conversation because, it wasn't like an attack. So it's make an observation, right? Yeah. And so that is, so asking questions is great. But if we can go to an employer and instead of saying, well, what's your favorite color? We can say, wow, you guys are really interested in green. That's the highest level. Yeah.
Well, that's good. Good words. And too, sometimes those, if we're asking a question over an observation, the other party's insecurities might come out. Just like with those homeless people of, oh man, why are you trying to bust my balls? I just got up. Haven't even had my coffee yet.
Right. That's
but
right.
We want to
and
find
if we get
humanity.
It wrong, if we get it wrong with the observation, then they'll correct us and we still get to the right answer.
Yes.
Right?
Which is even better.
Exactly.
For them to be able to say, no, this is Tuesday. Right. Everybody knows that Tuesday is a slower day, friend.
Right. And then we can be, oh, thank you for helping me understand. Right. Yes, and that dynamic works so well. Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah. And you never know who you're going to meet when you ask those questions. Someone might tell you that it's Thursday, but did you know in German, it's actually Thunder Day? You just never know.
Thursday. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
and Wednesday's just midweek day. I mean, that is just, like the quintessential, I think, German thing to name a day is it's the middle of the weekday.
It's the midweek day. That's right.
Everybody else uses Wednesday. Not those Germans.
Nope.
They come up with great titles. Now,
That's right.
so the biggest single mistake professionals make during this elusive job search that actually slows them down, or is there something that pushes them in ahead of the line or just off to hinterland?
So there's actually quite a bit. I mean, AI is really popular right now. And look, I'm a fan. I mean, there's a lot of miraculous things and it's good for a lot of things. And there's a lot of things with job searching it's not great at, because I believe that there's only that humans hire humans, right? And some people will hear this and like, but Eric, what about the algorithms? What about the ATS and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, how's that working? Right? Because humans hire humans. So the mistake I see some job seekers make is they try to work, they dive more into technology instead of realizing that the reason anybody's going to hire them is because of who they are, not in spite of it. And so the opportunity is to be more human in an increasingly automated and artificial world, right? Because that's who they're going to hire. And so, for instance, I'll work with job seekers and they'll get one of those automated rejection letters and they'll be like, well, that's done. Like, what do you mean that's done? Just pretend you just ignore that, circumvent that whole process, find a human, make them feel seen, heard, and understood. That's how you get hired, right? And they'll, and even, especially as you get younger, people are like, I got to actually make a phone call. Well, you don't have to do anything. It just depends on how fast you want to get hired.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Right.
It's like that.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we know that Shrek is going to make a candle out of earwax and Donkey is going to make pancakes. And
That's
people
right.
are people. And
That's
we
right.
resort to what's comfortable and that human connection. Now,
100%.
speaking of, re-ask that. Speaking of that human connection, networking can often cause some really major butterflies in certain people's tummy, but you focus on influence. How can this job seeker build genuine influence with people they haven't even met yet?
Oh, there's a great way. Do you ever see the Academy Awards? Right?
Yes.
Where the actor, she gets up there and she was won some big prize and everybody's applauding and she's like, well, I got nobody to thank. And everybody's sort of looking around. No, it doesn't happen that way. She gets up there and she's like, I got to thank this person, this one. They're trying to drag. There's this idea of the Franklin principle, as in Benjamin Franklin. He said, and he used old timey language, right? More than I'm going to use, but he said it, a lot of people think if you want to make a friend, do them a favor. And that's wrong. If you want to make a friend, ask them for help. Because if somebody does us a favor, we might be grateful and we might want to get the hell away from them because now we owe them something. Right. Whereas if I help somebody, now I have an investment. Their success is my success. So the best, most powerful way to network that I know of, people you know or don't, is quite simply ask for their help. Ask for their advice. People love to do that. I don't know about you, Michael, but like when I help people, it feels great. And so when I run into job seekers that are like kind of stingy about, they're sort of, they get wobbly about asking for help because they don't want to seem like needy. I'm like, why are you being so stingy giving other people that great feeling of helping people? Like, what's up with that? Right. Yeah. It's a gift.
Absolutely.
That's how you become influential is you ask people for help.
Yeah. There was a fellow that I used to have on my crew, came from a dysfunctional upbringing. And I was buying him a coffee, or somebody else was going to buy both of us a coffee. And this is when we lived out in Pacific Northwest, and it's coffee culture. It's just what you do. And he was talking, this makes me feel really bad. Like I've got my own money. And I was like, dude, why do you want to take away his opportunity to bless us and receive something ethereal and spiritual and physical all in return? I was like, we gotta, this is why we can thank people for helping us, because they're going to get so much more out of it than we are with just that cup of coffee. Yes.
Absolutely. We
love that.
We can believe in everybody. Like everybody's going to be taken care of, right? Whatever somebody's spiritual reference is, whether you believe in the mountains or God or whatever you like, right?
Yeah.
We can trust, or at least my belief, that everybody's got what they need to take care of themselves and they're going to be taken care of. Right. And when we can lean into that, it just works better. Right.
Yes.
And we can serve the people we're meant to serve from a place of, like abundance and, that's
It's right.
That's
And
what I'm saying.
we love talking about that
Yeah.
on 5 a.m. podcast, that abundance, that we actually get to be creative beings. From the Christian perspective, we get to be fruitful and multiply, which means that creation actually comes alongside us and works with us in our
Absolutely.
mission to create. And I often use our little white rose bush that's out by the grapevines, that part of the yard. And that thing only knows to blossom. We could cut
That's
it
right.
down to the ground every spring and it only knows abundance.
It'll come back. Yeah.
Yes.
Michael, you'll appreciate this. I think, I don't, if you've heard this, you tell me, but one metaphor I like is when it comes to service. And of course I stole this from somebody else. We can think of service as a cup and a saucer. We only want to serve from the saucer. We never want to serve from the cup. We want the cup to be overflowing.
Yes.
Right. And that's us,
Love it.
right? That's our self-care. That's, our taking, and it's when we take care of ourselves and that
true.
overflows that then we can serve from the saucer. We find we're serving from the cup and the cup runs dry. Well, now everybody's, this is like putting the oxygen mask on first, right? It's all that stuff. And so winning at work, that's my experience. That's another way to win at work.
That's good. I knew this one Texan fellow. He talked about his grandpa that would, on like a Sunday afternoon, they'd be sitting out on the porch and looking out over the farm, and he would get the grandmother to like overfill his teacup, and he would sip out of the saucer, and he'd say, "We're just saucering it, boy. We're just saucering it."
That's amazing. We're just saucering it. I love that.
We're just saucering it. And there's that Chinese proverb that says men are like teacups. When they're bumped, what's inside comes out. But if we have
I
an
haven't heard that. That's
overflowing-
amazing. That's so good. Yeah.
And it's so true to life. It works for the ladies too.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And they spill their tea as well. That's right.
Exactly. And so when we can be that overflowing cup, I know my wife and I have been talking about our kombucha Scooby. No one's going to sleep any better knowing this, but I call it Scoobs. I got a name for it. And
Nice.
so we're just, that thing, as long as we give it the right stuff, the tea and the sugar, I mean, that's all it needs. Maybe a little red wine once in a while. But that thing only knows how to propagate and make some fizzy beverage for us.
That's it.
And
That's amazing.
That is creation right there. So, ladies and gentlemen, we got to get back on track. I put so much work into this script. So now you've coached on the topic of resilience, which is another thing that we talk about here on 5 a.m. podcast. How does a leader maintain their own well-being and productivity while they're navigating the high pressure turnaround or another major career transition?
Yeah, I mean, it really goes to what we were just talking about with the cup, right? So,
Yeah.
And I am not a paragon of this by any means. My coach works with me on this all the time, is that, getting enough sleep, being with people we love, people that love us. I'm a big fan of petting dogs, having systems, music, going for a walk, having systems that tell our caveman lizard brain amygdala nervous system that we are not about to get eaten by a saber-tooth tiger, right? Because so often that part of our brain does not know the difference between losing a job and tigers coming to eat my face. Like it literally doesn't know the difference. So the way we give, we build resilience is we take really good care of ourselves. We have a lot of compassion for ourselves and others. That's what builds resilience. And to realize that, we're going to be taken care of. We don't have to worry about stuff. And this can also come to, this is something I certainly have not figured out. And it's something I strive to practice is we don't have to have so much attachment to outcomes. We can practice a path of low attachment, high engagement. Right? And if we can get our minds around that, then there's less need for resilience because there's just less wear and tear because we're not worrying so much about trying to control stuff we can't.
Right.
If we can really just control what's in the present moment. And that's a practice. I mean, I'm a pretty damn good coach, but that's a practice more than an event, at least so far for me. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, one of those things that fits into this whole milieu, if we can use that word right now.
Yeah, milieu. Yes.
Yes. Is people's to-do lists. And I've got notebooks all over the place. And somebody who's listening may also have a lot of notebooks and to-do lists, keeping themselves in a state of what they think is maybe preparation, but they might be feeling overwhelmed with these to-do lists and their expectations, their career goals. How do you help them prioritize the productivity over just being busy?
Well, there's a great way to get through your to-do list is not have one.
Yeah, just throw it out.
Right? It was an alternative, right, is to have a to-be list.
Oh, nice. I like that.
Because if there's this thing called the framework, right? Or there's circumstances that lead to thoughts, that lead to feelings, that lead to actions, that lead to results, right? The acronym CTFAR: circumstances to thoughts to feelings to actions to results. And what a lot of people do is they'll focus on the actions. If I can just get the actions right. Some people will go up a level and they'll focus on their feelings. And if we can just skip all that and we can just get to our thoughts, which is also another word for belief, and we can work on our beliefs, see, that's a to-be list. That's asking the question of, who do I want to be? And my experience is when we can focus on that, it's just a lot higher leverage. And look, I'm looking at it right here, right? I've got some stuff to do right here, right? I've got it.
Yeah.
And but what I find is I don't focus so much on the action as I do the beliefs that I have. And when I do that successfully, the actions work out for themselves.
That's right. Because we're human beings, not human doings.
That's right.
We talk about often. We're human beings. Yes.
Human beings.
So then thinking back to your time on Capitol Hill and the big, enormous White House, what is the one lesson on human nature that you find yourself coming back to most often when you're coaching leaders today? Yeah.
I mean, people want to matter. They want to make a difference. Everybody wants to be seen, heard, and understood. I forget there's an African language. I always forget which it is, but the word for hello literally translates into I see you. Right? I see you. Like I recognize that you are there and that's okay. I'm not going to get rid of you, right? Or attack you. And if and when we can make people feel seen, heard, and understood, I mean, you want to talk about being an influencer. I mean, that, again, when I worked in the Clinton administration, Bill Clinton was very famous for saying, I feel your pain, right? Which is another way of saying, I see you.
Yeah.
Right. I see you. I feel your pain. Yeah. You want to move mountains and, move nations. That'll do it.
That'll do it. Man, it comes back to the homeless people in Penn Station or Union Station.
That's it.
Just ask me what I've been observing. I've been sitting here and I've been observing.
That's right.
And yeah, that's good, man. Eric, thank you so much for sharing such a wealth of practical wisdom. It's not often we get to hear from someone who's navigated both the halls of the White House, the challenges of the modern job market with so much clarity. So thank you for joining me for the 5 a.m. podcast. It's great to have you here.
Pleasure to be here, Michael. I really appreciate what you do, brother.
Thank you so much. It's so much fun. We do it for the ladies and gentlemen that are listening. Now, listen, folks, if you're watching, you're listening, and you're ready to take that next step with our friend Eric, whether you're looking for a new role, you want to excel where you are right now, Eric has a free career workshop called Get Hired Fast. Even if you can't make a live session, I highly encourage you to register so that you can get access to the replay and the actionable steps that Eric shared today and more. So head over to event.winatwork.io. Some of us will say that in a different way, but it's just I-N-O, to register for the workshop and start getting different results in your career today. So, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, please seize your days, enjoy those sunrises and sunsets and all those beautiful adventures in between. I'm Michael Claassen. I'll see you next time on the 5 a.m. podcast. Thanks for watching the show. Just a reminder that you can get all of our resources, other episodes, and read our blog posts at 5ampodcast.com. 5 a.m. podcast is brought to you in part by mkci.ca, a certified member of the Autodesk Developer Network. MKCI helps companies maximize their AutoCAD, Inventor, Navisworks, and other design software investments. Their innovative products like the CommandSys script editor and the Clash Management Suite will streamline your workflow and boost your productivity. Visit mkci.ca today to discover how they can enhance your competitive CAD advantage. That's mkci.ca. Thank you for your support of 5am Podcast.